children's book.
No.
It's all about housing, and it's broken down into like, 8 common typologies.
Cool.
And it shows pretty detailed floor plan and unit plans of, buildings from the 60s to today that use each of those typologies.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Ash. How are you?
I'm good. I joined late, but I had a chance to give Mark Mosley a comment on his taxi elevators and stairs.
Great. Great. Well, we just lost the connection here, so I had to restart the session. So I'm waiting for everyone to return. While that's happening, I wanted to introduce Christoph to you, Ash.
Hi, Chris.
One of our architects.
I know him. I know him.
Okay.
Yeah, he came. I saw him a couple times in the camp.
That's right.
Super. So I'm actually relying heavily tonight on Christoph to give everyone a fresh perspective from the stale perspective that you and I give them, because they'll have total confusion by the end of this week, because now they'll have 3 different points of view. So that's what's happening. We've already had Rasha's presentation, and we're right sort of at the end of Michael's. The alarm just rang, but we've got a few more.
Okay, I have the shared drive.
Cool.
I looked at the file that were posted.
Maybe, Ash, you could mute your microphone.
Okay.
I'm getting some feedback here. This is something we've been experiencing tonight. And maybe Nancy, you could too. Sounds like you've got birds there. Eric's there. Do we have everyone? Alex, I'm missing Alex. Luis. Okay, so I think I've invited everyone again. Thanks for coming back to session 2 of our class. I know we're missing Michael still. I've already invited him. But in any event, I think we'll move on. I'm not sure if Josh is back yet. Maybe someone else can tell me who the next presenter is.
I'm next.
And who was that?
Courtney.
Oh, Courtney. Okay. So, Courtney, you have the mic as soon as I give it to you, so I can fire up the PowerPoint. One moment. And you can leave it. Okay, presentation. I'm going to mute.
Mark, I have a question before we can, before Courtney goes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm filling the grade. So I just have like the and then you have below incomplete. So pick mark,
Yeah.
and then
Yep. In fact, that's what you got from me last time. That's what you'll get from me from here on in. It's a location-based assessment, Mark.
okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Is that it?
Mhm.
Excellent. Welcome back, everyone. I can see you all here. And right now, in case you don't know, we're going to be giving the floor to Courtney.
Am I okay to start? Just a thumbs up. Hopefully. Okay. On the first page, the thing I really worked for today's review was to mass the building out using a model. So that's where the bulk of my time went. And what I wanted to do is I took units that I had already put together as 42 by 14 in size, and I wanted to push those back and forth so that I would create terraces and identifiable units from inside the corridor and outside on the street. Given that this is an older community, it would just give them more visual cues and create interest. So then I have two different views, A and B. That's on slide 1 and slide 2. I was particularly more interested in slide B because it gave me something fun to do for the retail space there on the corner, allowing people on the street level to actually interact with the building. So they'd walk through in and out because that's public space. And then when it becomes private space down the road a little towards the residential, then it doesn't allow pedestrians to do that as much. The next few slides actually show more of a model from a larger scale view. So slide 3, north view, shows the kind of the back spacing of the building where most of the sunlight will be coming into. And I've got the ramp coming in off of the alleyway. And as it stands now, it looks like there's a lot of glazing going into the corridors, like kind of like what we've talked about with Michael's project. But I will be having a lattice structure or like a live wall, a live green wall that will filter some of that sunlight out and actually help ventilate the building naturally. That's the idea and the goal anyway. If we go down to the southwest and southeast views, those are just elevations of what building's looking like now. So just a lot of terrace and strips, and the green is live walls. So that's something I'm really trying to focus on, is putting this mixed use building in with nature, even though it's lying in the center of a city. Same with northeast and northwest views, which these will probably help later on when I'm explaining the plans. And then as I was talking about creating visual cues, if you go down to the slide that has corridor view on it, you can see how these units start to jog in and out within the actual corridor itself. So that if an older resident is walking through, they have something other than just a door number to say this is your unit. And instead of facing a long corridor of door, 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 you've got something more recognizable. So then it goes into the plans. I still have old plans from last week, but other than, I mean, the only things that I've really changed is that I added in more of the angle that this site has, which created more interesting corridors and allowed me to do those terrace moves. But as far as the layout of the building and like generally where things are located now on these larger plans haven't changed much, other than some dimensions. So on the left of these next few pages are the old plans, and on the right upper corner, there's from the model, that's where the floor plates stand now. So that first plan there is the basement level, or level 0 as I'm calling it. So that'll have the most of the parking, probably not 50 now because I have moved things around, but it also has the storage beneath the ramps, and the generator room and bike storage moved up to the ground level. Onto the main level, or level 1, I have that huge retail space, which I will propose as being probably a restaurant. And then on the more northwest side, that smaller retail is probably going to be a cafe, so that different generations can interact with each other. This being the baby boomers, and then millennials are also intrigued by cafes. So that'll be a place for them to interact naturally. And then as you can see the difference between those two plans, I've developed that south corner more and figured out parking and green space. And adding to the south side of the exercise room is where I've added the generator room, the bike storage, and a larger electrical room, which will allow for terraces upstairs, as you can see in the model. Moving up to this level 2 through 4, what's really changed here is allowing more terraces to happen by jogging those units in and out. Other than that, it really hasn't changed much. And level 5, still need to work on those studio units because the angles actually did make it so that I could make those units larger, and I have moved the terrace across on the community space directly facing Alfred Street. If you can see that in the little thumbnail. And again, I have a repeat, so the last page doesn't actually make any difference. So with that, that's what I've got. So I'll go ahead and mute for now.
Which one do you want to go back? You want to go back to the master? Thanks. Yeah, let's go. Well, wait, let's stay here for a second. So, or can you go up one level to level 2? So we're looking at the plan labeled level 2 through 4. So I'm curious about the open stairs. Is the intention that they're an open stair all the way up through the building? I'll put it on mute here.
That is the intention, but I don't know if that's actually going to work completely. So that would just open up to being a common area on the higher floors.
Yeah, I think code-wise that could be tricky, but I sort of like the idea of some kind of vertically connected space at the heart of this building that's connected to your common space. And, you know, maybe there's a way to do that visually, even if you're not literally, you know, providing an open stair all the way up the building. I think it seems like you're maybe, one of the things I was gonna say looking at your older plans was the community space seems like a real sort of leftover residual space, which is funny, especially because you're working so hard to give your units sort of formal identity and presence, and it seems like it would be nice if some of that same level of attention went to your community space too, which could be, I mean, a very important sort of part of your building, and it seems like maybe you're doing that a little bit with your new plans, but I think that could definitely use some work. And now that I'm looking at the new plans, the 2-bedroom ADA unit up in the northwest corner has a really odd shape, and maybe you're thinking about how that lays out in plan, but I'd be sort of curious to see how that looks. It's also interesting. I don't necessarily know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's interesting that the ADA unit is sort of off on its own, like sequestered in a corner of the building where nobody else goes. That seems a little cruel for some reason. Not that it's not a nice spot, but I wonder if there's, it's interesting too, I'm just kind of talking as I go along here, but it sort of seems like you have a, you know, pretty clear idea of what you're doing for a bar-shaped building along John R. And then you know, realized that you had some more space to work with along Alfred Street, and you had some more program elements that you had to fit in there, and so you kind of threw that stuff over in that area. But to me, it doesn't look like it's been treated with the same attention, and for that reason, it feels sort of tacked on. Like, I think you have a clear organizational and formal concept for what you're doing along John R. Street, and you don't necessarily have that for Alfred Street yet. Doesn't mean that it needs to be the same strategy repeated. It could be something different, maybe related, but right now I'm just missing the same level of sort of organizational thought on that portion of the building. Is one comment I would make, looking at both of the new plans and the old plans. So, but you have plenty of time to think that through. It's just that the one portion of the building feels pretty logical. Okay, it looks believable, and the other is maybe not quite so developed yet. I was also gonna say, just like everybody else, I think it would be useful to start seeing how your units actually lay out, and what impact that has, especially in your case, on the facades, which I appreciate that you're interested in, and I like the you know, the kind of articulation that you have going so far with the units punching out here and there, and I think that could provide pretty fantastic views and spaces in the units, both for the, and can we go back to one of those views where we're talking about it, the massing, or yeah, maybe the other, yeah, this is a good one. We're looking at your very first slide now, view A, and I like the general idea. I think those would be pretty sweet units, and they provide, you know, this kind of room that's sticking out into space within that unit, and then you potentially have a sort of a terrace space on the unit above. And I think it would help you develop the facades and these elevations by thinking about how the units are laid out and, you know, what it makes sense to have, because ultimately right now it looks like everything is sort of glass, and then there's also some green surfaces, but ultimately it won't, and I suppose it could all be glass, but that would be something to think about in terms of how the units lay out. You know, where is it important to have glass, you know, or are there going to be punch openings for windows? Where are you going to have solid walls? You'll have to have some degree of solid walls to make everything structurally feasible. But I think it's a cool concept. So now going through it in another level of detail and development will help you sort of fine tune what you're actually doing and what that facade looks like. I think it could be pretty cool. And also the green wall is an interesting idea, but probably one that's worth thinking about in terms of, you know, I bet with a small amount of research, you could start to figure out pretty quickly, you know, what orientations are the green walls going to work on. You know, do they work facing the south versus facing the north or east or west? How much sunlight do they need? And that's going to help you start to locate those a little bit more strategically. Right now, they seem like they're sort of haphazardly placed. And strangely, there's also a lot of green wall surfaces on slab edges, which seems tricky, but so that's something that I would look at more. And then also so now we're looking at the view, at the kind of the north view, the sort of aerial view where we're looking into to the parking lot. And it looks like there's some kind of, I'm looking over in the northwest corner of the building, and there's a green wall back there that's sort of like twisting, rotating by degrees as you go up the building. That's pretty interesting, and I didn't see it pop up in the plans, and I'm not sure what it relates to otherwise, but I'm interested in it. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I'll put myself on mute.
You know, this was more of a massing model, so I was trying to experiment with a couple of different things. So that was, you know, I think it could turn into being something how I treat that Alfred Street side a little more thoughtfully. But it was really just to create more interest in terrace or green space on that wall instead of just it being standard windows, because it's so interesting on the John R. Street. And so I guess that was kind of my start at doing something more interacting than not. I don't know. Words.
No, I think it's a cool idea, and it's probably worth playing around with and seeing how it potentially affects the way you organize that whole side of the building, or maybe it's something that you sort of combine with what you're doing on the John R. side too. I mean, maybe they're not just like punching in and out. Maybe there's also some rotation happening too. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to look at. Oh, and then the other thing I was going to say about the elevation views that you're developing, and again, I appreciate that as a way of working, sort of paying attention to what the building, how one perceives the building from the street level. But I think you've got to look at Alfred Street just as closely as you're looking at John R. Because that's an important one too. And I think that'll help you develop that. I'm also we're looking at the level 2 through 4 plan, and in the old plan, you had that really long north-south terrace, I guess, next to the north-south corridor. And in the new plan, that became, or you got rid of that entirely, and the green space became private balconies. Is that right?
Okay, I see what you said on level 2 through 4, if I'm correct. And what I ended up changing that for, instead of having such a small strip, because that's really only 2 feet. So it did translate into private space on the John R. side. And if you look at the level 1, it actually has the terrace above that, so that wait. No, I just didn't draw it. Okay. Sorry. In my model, it shows that there is a terrace above level 1, that those end up looking out from the corridors 2 through 4. Sorry about that.
And what's the green? So now we're looking at the north view again, where I can see what you're talking about. You have the terrace, that sort of shared wedge-shaped terrace running along the parking area on level 2. What's that on the north side of the building, north side of the parking lot? What's that green cube? So.
That is bike storage. As far as I'm still gonna do more with that side of the building, Alfred side, I think I want to do more with that because it's just really interesting because that's right behind the retail space also. But yeah, that is bike storage.
Yeah, the 525 square feet of retail space almost seems too small to be useful, don't you think? I would take that. I mean, you have a good chunk of retail space on John R. I don't know exactly what the program requirements are and how much space you're supposed to provide. But you're thinking move the retail
to John R.
Yeah, I would move that space to John R. And then on Alfred Street, allow yourself, because right now it's a very stingy lobby space, probably even to the point where it doesn't really work. I would allow yourself a little bit more of a generous lobby space, entry space on Alfred Street, and really make that the focus there. And you've got your retail on John R. I wouldn't try to shoehorn in another small retail space there. But our timer is going off, so I think time's up. It's a good looking project. Thanks for sharing it.
Thanks, Courtney. Who's next?
Thank you.
Eric's up next.
I have a quick question here, Mark.
Go ahead.
Courtney, I'm not gonna take a lot of time here. I usually speak very quick on these things. I don't take much time. I like the project organization. Everything looks all right, except this green cube. I like that you put the services in a hub in between the kind of an L shape. This will shorten any ducts that coming from either the roof or the bottom. So I appreciate that very much. The electrical meter and the stairs. I have a quick question. Why did you have a surface parking? Is it a part of the requirements? Like, to me, I would love this is good for handicapped, but I would love to be this more of a common space, and instead of just concrete. I'm not sure how this would satisfy the program. However, I'm not. I love the project so much. I love the elevations, the study. Very nice. I'm looking here at the north view. I love these kind of recesses on Alfred near the corner, northwest corner here. My essential question here: what do you think your structural system would be to carry this nice, sexy glass walls?
I feel like I only have one answer, which is steel or concrete.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not trying to put you on a spot here, but this is probably our next I would say module 2, or I'm going to kind of divide this. This is for everybody. Very quick. I'm going to divide the upcoming 3 modules on sort of an initial and a final, because you won't be able to get the final scheme till you finalize the design. But I'm going to ask everybody this question: what do you think your structure system would be? And if it's a steel or a concrete, okay? I would love that you had a module, okay? That structural module or architectural module, a subset of a structural module that will control the placement of your columns. So I would encourage everybody to do that as well. Just think of where you're going to put your columns, how it will disturb or not disturb the parking underneath. Okay, so that's for everybody. So this is our next assignments, or looking at the structural system and how it would work or achieve this nice design. Very good job. Very good job. You are my girl. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. So Eric, we have your slides up. As soon as Christoph gives you the thumbs up, you can begin your presentation. And I'll mute.
Okay, start out here with my site plan. Building pretty much takes up the majority of the site. I think that was kind of expected. We've got in the southwest corner here off the alley, there is the ramp down to the parking deck. Adjacent to that is some surface parking, 6 spaces there. And I also, I found a little, I don't know how legal this is. I didn't really look into the zoning on it, but up on the north side at Alfred Street, I managed to kind of lengthen that parking lane there and squeeze in another couple of parking spaces up there. And when I get to the first floor on the next sheet here, we'll kind of see why. So if we go to the next sheet, this is the first floor plan. And I chose to, at the northwest corner here, kind of cant the lower level of the building a little bit and place some residential units at ground level. So adjusting the shape of the building a little bit gave me some space for a residential patio out front, which my hope here is that this kind of softens the impression of the building in regards to the Ransom Gillis house next door. Kind of bring the scale down a little bit and respect that space there. Also off of Alfred Street at the top here on the it'd be actually northwest side, but plan north at the top, is the entrance vestibule to the residential lobby. Off of there, we've got some bike storage, the dog wash station, some small space for laundry there and the main lobby. The lobby, I wanted to extend all the way through the building, so that connects directly to the stair and elevator core, which goes directly outside to the parking at the rear there. So the idea is that you can enter either from Alfred or the alley, and both of those routes are easy travel to the M1 or event spaces to the southwest. On the east side of the building, fronting John R., is the 2 retail spaces. And down at the south end here is just back end stuff, the trash room, boiler room, generator, and meter room there. We move on to the next sheet. This is level 2, and this is carbon copied all the way up to the 5th floor. So all of those floor plans are going to be identical. I've got 2-bedroom apartments on the northeast side here, and I cut the building here. This is kind of I think it gives a visual link to the City Modern Detroit development that's going on there in Brush Park. So I think it made kind of a nice visual between the 2 developments. On these floors, we've got additional laundry. So that happens at every floor. We've got locker spaces and a trash room and janitor's closet. All of the apartments are 720 square feet or larger. So I think they're pretty decent size. And I also, in the middle there by the trash room, that's a mechanical chase. I think we're going to need that to get all our services up and down the building. So next sheet. Back down to the basement here, we've got parking for 46 vehicles and additional storage lockers. Nothing really exciting going on here. Ended up going all one-way drive around and squeezed in the parking spaces. Started laying out a little bit of the structural grid. It's very early on in the planning of that. So the next sheet, I have some exterior elevations here, just kind of blocking out the shape of it, the shape of the building, kind of figuring out the overall heights here. The next page is more elevations, east and west sides. Next sheet, A301, is section. Kind of, I didn't really get into the nitty-gritty details here, but we're kind of showing our floor plates and our vertical circulation here through that main stair tower. And the final, oh, no, next sheet, A900, is some 3D views. So again, just kind of trying to get a perspective on how this building might fit into the neighborhood a little bit. So the first one's a southwest view, looking at the back of the building from the alleyway. The next image there on the bottom is looking north on John R. And then on the next sheet, I've got 2 more images. Looking east on Alfred Street, you can see how that building kind of peels back a little bit away from the Ransom Gillis house, which is just represented by a block here, but gives you an idea of how that works. And then the last image there is the northeast corner of John R. and Alfred, kind of showing how that angled upper portion of the building faces back towards the City Modern development. And that's it.
Okay. Mark, can you go to the site plan view? Just we're looking at the site plan view here, and just real quick, so you know, because you've referenced it a couple of times, the Ransom Gillis house is actually like kitty corner from your site, so it's on the northeast corner of John R. and Alfred. But there is a big historic home at the location where you've got Ransom Gillis house labeled on your map. So potentially some of your same concerns about trying to manipulate the form of the building to respect that building, I think are still valid. But in terms of your presentation, it's not the right house. That's a minor point. I guess I'm going to ask you to talk just a little bit more, because I guess I'm still missing sort of an overarching sense of what is the most important or exciting thing to you about the project and what you're doing. And I wonder if you could just speak to that real quick. I'll put myself on mute.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd have to kind of admit that I don't really have a really strong spark of inspiration on this one. I think kind of integrating into this residential kind of neighborhood, even though a lot of it's gone, it's kind of the thing here, while still preserving some of this money, you know, the retail, which drives the money, which kind of funds the building in a way, in addition to the residential stuff. I do think it's kind of interesting that this is an age-restricted development. So, you know, you kind of catering to a specific group of people, which is kind of interesting. So, yeah, I don't know if that really hits the answer to your question, but
yeah, no, that's helpful, and to be honest, that's kind of the sense I was getting to. Like, you have it seems like you have a pretty plausible building worked out, but I wasn't really picking up on what was important to you or inspirational to you about it. But hearing you talk about it a bit, I mean, I think it's, like you mentioned, this neighborhood is a crazy context. I mean, the history, the past, present, the future, everything that's going on in this neighborhood, and this sort of fragmented urban form that's created. I mean, it's really wild. It's really interesting. And I think that's totally valid as a sort of point of engagement for you and your project. But then I guess I would like to see you make that a little bit more of a central concern and a driver for your project. So, you know, like when you talk about certain views that link your building to the historic home next door, or the Ransom Gillis house, which is kitty corner, or some of the pieces of the city modern development. Those are things that I'd like to see studied, maybe in a more iterative fashion, you know, as a massing model or as prospective views on the street, rather than, you know, sort of presenting the plan and then you do have the view, which is a start, but it looks like it's a presentation view. It's not like an experimentation view. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I think you could do many versions of, and then you and Mark could talk about, you know, what are the effects that this one has, what's successful about this one versus this one, and start to make some decisions in a way that are guided by your interest in the context and the neighborhood, which I think could be a really, really rich basis for developing this building further. So that would be my main comment, and I think you definitely do have certain things that you're interested in, and now the trick is just to, you know, to explore those interests. And you have, do they all have pretty accurate models of all the, I mean, I can see that there's some massing models for the context around here, but in terms of like more specific, like building shapes and materiality, and not that you have to know every single last detail about everything around you, but
they have a Rhino model of it, and they have extensive film and video documenting the context, and they're all using the same information.
Yeah,
as I understand it.
Yeah, I would do some work with analyzing context. I mean, I think as sort of a preamble to your presentation, you know, to get people hooked and to get yourself inspired, I would do an analysis of the context and sort of your take on what's important and why, and then you'll have laid the groundwork basically for now introducing your own intervention to this context, and you can test what the impacts of that are. And I would think about, you know, not just form of the surrounding buildings, but materiality and program, you know, the balance of open space to build space. I mean, I think these are all really interesting things to look at, and would be a good basis for you. We've got some time left. I don't know if
maybe if Ash wants to.
Ash, do you have any comments you want to add here? I'll put myself on mute.
Okay. I like the concept, Eric. I just, you know, kind of give a very, very quick view here. The parking, yes, you said you haven't thought about I'm looking at the parking now. You haven't thought about the structure module, but for me, this parking, I'm not trying to dictate anything on you, but these inclined parkings are very hard to do, and I have a lot of conservation about this. The exit ramp here, the circle of rotation, the maneuvering circle here, I think it's on the tight side. I like as a very straightforward kind of looking at the elevations, as well as a perfect, I call it perfect wall. Whatever cladding you wanna do, you have a nice sort of a nice arrangement of the windows. I hope it stays. You know, you could solve it closer to this. I don't like this kind of a triangle that has very thin kind of a fascia on the most important corner of your street here. If you're looking at the 3D that looks at the very last one, NE corner of Jean R and Alfred, I think there is a lot to be desired here in this corner. You might want to think of some terraces. You play a little bit with terraces. If you insist on having this triangle on this important corner, I would seek better alternatives. I'd like that you thought about mechanical systems. You have the space on the roof for solar slash equipments, which you thought of it very well. The vertical shaft of the mechanical systems here is very nice. This could be developed later, but the location near the stair or near the your main hub is wonderful. Next step forward again is just start thinking of having a module where you're gonna put your columns, or if you're doing it out of steel or concrete or even wood. This is the next question that you have to answer, and this is absolutely will reflect on some of you might have to change some of these spaces accordingly. And I believe your parking will have a different perspective when you start laying out your structural module, not just these 6 columns that are there, which are good, by the way, but you base your whole idea on these 6 columns in the basement. I doubt this will might work, but you have to look at the columns that arrive from your typical floors, not just the first floor slab, unless you're gonna go with the like a steel or concrete in the first floor, and then you're gonna do wood. But I don't think that's the case here. Looking at your elevations, that's probably a concrete or a steel building here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I make one more comment here before we, just as the timer is going off here? I was just looking through your drawings again, and I mean, you have this pretty amazing looking penthouse that you only see in the elevation views. You don't have a plan view of it, and it doesn't show up in any of your perspective views either. And it's not a criticism. I'm really curious about what that space is, both in terms of the program of the building and what kind of amenity it provides for residents, but also I think in terms of the formal character of the building. You look around at a lot of historical examples in Brush Park, and kind of these crowning building elements, especially on some of the more elaborate, Victorian architecture there. Those are super important parts of the building character, and what you're doing here could have the potential to develop into something similar too. So I think that could be interesting and worth looking more at. But our timer's up here, so I'll who do we have?
So yeah, who's next, Josh?
Carmen is next.
Okay.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? All right, perfect. So if we take a look at slide number 2, actually the first page is just an idea of the facade that I'm trying to work on. In the last page of the document, we'll take a look at the materials that I want to use. But really what I'm trying to get at is playing with the terraces and just the volumes and the depths. So if we take a look at the second page, which is the lower level plan, I put the parking just down below. I can fit 47 spaces.
Is she gone?
Yeah, she's still not back. Hang in there, everyone. Okay. Here she is.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Hi, Carmen.
I tried to go to a different room to see if I could get
Yeah, we lost your transmission, I think. So we have you back. We're looking at the parking plan, and I think you were just about ready to start talking about that.
Okay, yes. And if you can't hear me, I can go outside maybe to see if it's just the room. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the parking garage. 47 spots fit down below. I have 50 set of storage lockers with a total of 1521 square feet. The elevators are down below as well as the stairs. And I have 3 spots for ADA. If we go on to the 3rd page, so this is my 1st floor. Retail is at the corner. I have 2 lobbies with a vestibule just so it's easy access from Alfred and John R. I'm sorry. I ran all around the house trying to get a better signal. Service is through the access. Hello? Can you hear me okay? Okay. Hello?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, you're still there. All right. All right, so the 3rd page, I'm sorry, I'm having like the worst signal. So the service is just down below. I have exercise room, common room, and the stairs on the 1st floor.
Okay, please be patient. This is your stuff, right?
Hi, I'm so sorry. So it says connecting, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. So I just came outside.
We can hear you okay. So I'll start the clock then.
Okay. Now I'm outside, so hopefully this will be better. So I was saying that on the second and the third floor, we have, I have all the bedrooms. I have 16 units on each floor. So there's two bedrooms, one bedroom's 14 units on the second and third floor. All of these rooms, the main idea is to a view and natural light coming in from the street or from the courtyard. So all of the rooms will have either a private terrace, and they all have access to the common corridors. The laundry room, service room, bathrooms, and a dog wash which will on both the second, the third, and the fourth floor. If we go on to page number 5, which is the fourth plan. So the way that I designed the space is the second and the third floor have it will have a little bit less bedrooms. So there's going to be 2 3-bedrooms, 3 units. And the ones with 1 bedroom, there will be 13 units. Floor, there's a couple of bedrooms. So there's 7 bedrooms that will have a double story, own private loft. They'll have access. They'll have a view to the street. 4th floor and the 5th floor of those residents will have their own private terrace. Again, laundry room still on all the floors. I wanted all of them to have their own service and not have to carry down their laundry. The corridor is still right through the middle, the stairs, elevators, everything that is an easy access to. If we go on to page number 6, which is the 5th floor, we can see that the residential units, where the loft is and where it's open below. These rooms, I will like for them to have a either coming in through the ceiling or through windows. So that is something that I still have to resolve with. Also on the 5th floor, there would be bedrooms down below, but above, I completed my 50 bedrooms. So there's an open terrace with a green roof and the community. So let's just say that you're having a party, you'd be in the community center, but there's a door that allows you to go to the open terrace. Page number 7, so I just wanted to describe, I'm gonna move inside, some of the bedrooms. So there is, for the noise, I'll just go inside. So there's a 1-bedroom that's a 28 by 24. That's 676 square feet. Here it is. 36 square feet. It has a living room, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, and dining. The 1-bedroom that is 553 square feet. Those are just a little bit smaller, and those I were thinking to be my affordable units. The difference between the both is you can't really fit a small little table. Either you get an island or a table, but you get a bedroom, living room, a bathroom, closet space, and a kitchen. If we move on to page number 8, we can just see the space with the 2-bedroom. This is not the bedroom with the loft, it's just a standard 2-bedroom. So we've got room on the left, room on the right, a living room, dining room, and kitchen. And the idea is to have all the windows through the front. Page number 9 is the roof plan, so we can see the open terrace below. The condensing units will be on the rooftop, air handling unit, the elevator overrun, the trash chute vent. And also I wanted to put solar panels on the roof. If we go on to the next page, so this is the site plan. So we can see the L shape on Alfred and John R. And the surfing massing model. It doesn't really show my facades that I wanted to display, but we can see the open green terrace and just the way that it shapes it's on the lot. And lastly, to conclude, my last page is my section in materials. So we can see I want to use our lighter tones. They're natural, stone, brick, wood, some metal. And then we can see on the 4th and 5th floor how it's connected by a vestibule, not a vestibule, I'm sorry, like a loft type unit. And the balconies, how they move in and out from the exterior of the building. Thank you so much.
Cool, thanks.
Someone needs to hear.
Okay. Oh. Is there someone that still needs to mute? Okay, perfect. Thanks. So, I'm wondering about a couple things. One of which is, and I'll let you talk about this a little bit more. Can you talk about, do you have would you say you have a main entrance? Is your main entrance on Alfred Street or John R. Street, or are those sort of equally weighted entrances? Like you have two main entrances, because they seem sort of equal, but then you have both elevators associated with the entrance on John R. Street. I'm just trying to figure that out here. I'll put myself on mute and you.
All right. So I was thinking the main vestibule or lobby could be on John R. I do have a private mailroom that will be designated to that space, but because the elevators and the stairs are so close, that for me is my main entry point. Also on the other side, it does have an extra mailroom, but I'm thinking those can just be extra packages that may not fit in the main lobby. It's really more on Alfred Street for the entrance. You're exercising, you want to go out, and it's just a nice place to sit and relax. That's what I'm thinking, more on Alfred Street, but the main entrance to be on John R.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I'm just wondering about things like, you know, some of your shared amenity spaces, maybe the exercise room, but especially like the common resident area and the mailroom, it seems like those would really benefit by being adjacent to your primary entry. I mean, the exercise room, maybe that draws enough traffic on its own, but your common resident area sort of seems like it should sit adjacent to your main lobby vestibule, whatever that is, and probably all of your mail facilities ought to be in the same space too. Logistically, it seems like a problem to, if one mail room fills up, that you've got to walk all the way over to the other end of the building to access the other mail room. And, those are sort of small points. I think in general, the building organization works, but as you develop it further, having a sense of, whether those are really two equal nodes versus, one is a bit more public versus one is a bit more private, versus emphasizing one over the other, they'll probably play a role in the way that you develop the character of the building. So that's why I wanted to ask those questions. I guess my main question for you, Mark, can you scroll back to the very initial sketch? I think the sketch is really cool, and I'm interested in sort of what it means to you and how you're anticipating developing the building to get at what you're interested in this sketch. And I'll put myself on mute and I'll let you talk about that, because basically there's a lot of intriguing things that I see happening in the sketch that I think you're aware of are not really evident in your building plans, but hopefully they will be. So can you talk a little bit about what's appealing to you about this sketch and what you'd like to take forward in terms of developing the plans, developing the units from the ideas that you're presenting here?
Yes, so Brush Park is more of a historical neighborhood, so I wanted to incorporate brick. So the brick I created all the way on the left, it's bedrooms without a balcony. So the balcony is really accessed from the interior. So the way that I wanted to do that is to create a structure made out of, and I actually have an image here just playing, I don't know if you can see my screen, but playing around with the brick and the detail just on that section that goes all the way up. So it's a focal point. It's right next to the lobby. The terraces are a main part of my project. So each one will have ranging in between about 3 feet deep to 6 feet deep. So they'll move in. I did want to have large windows, again, because of the natural light and the aspect to it. But not everything can be glass, just like a glass house or a glass building. So I was thinking of doing panels, more of like a louver, to add that wood detail, to block off part of, let's say, a bedroom, but they can be open and closed. The bottom is the retail space, so that will be brick incorporated also with glass, and then steel metal structures throughout, just to have it look a little bit more modern, which is what I'm trying to go for. So trying to keep the historical part of it with the materials, but a little bit more modern just on how I use the materials. That was the idea.
Cool. And I really appreciate that you're thinking about materials this early in the project too, because I think that'll be important. I get what you're saying about the brick and wanting to tie into the neighborhood contextually, but for me, when I look at this sketch, you have such a strong sort of organizational logic going on with these horizontal bands wrapping the building, and then the strategy of these sliding screens that I think would work really well with that. that the brick portion on the left almost feels like it's tacked on, like it has nothing to do with the rest of the building. And so I'm wondering instead if there's a way to incorporate your interest in brick as a material with the strategy that you're doing for the other 95% of the building. And you know, and there are a million ways to do that. I mean, I could, like those sliding screen elements, I can imagine those being built out of brick too. I mean, maybe not literally sliding if they're built out of brick, but you could have these sort of screen-like partitions made out of brick that you could play around with different patterns and even different levels of porosity. You know, maybe it's not all closed off. Maybe it's like a brick screen that allows some light and views to filter in. I think that could be pretty cool. And but that's just one idea that I'm throwing out. There's a million different ways you can incorporate, you know, brick into your design here. And I also think that it's interesting the hierarchy that you're setting up with horizontal and vertical elements. I mean, you have these clearly delineated kind of projecting balconies at the ends of your vertical bands, and then, horizontal bands, and then you have these vertical fins that are slightly recessed behind those. So those add another layer of texture to your facade. They're clearly secondary because they're recessed a bit, but it also feels like there's too few of them. If there were more of them, or they were more regularly ordered or structured, I think that would help your elevations read a little bit better. So that's something that I would start exploring. And then, you know, what is that? Is that concrete, or is that, you know, clad in some kind of metal, or are those brick? I don't know. And then the other thing, Mark, can you scroll to the unit plans?
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to go there.
Because you're talking a lot about the importance of those terraces for the unit plans. And first of all, thank you for actually drawing the unit plans, because that's really useful to see those and to start experimenting with those. And you actually have those drawn in a pretty nice level of detail, so it's easy to start thinking about what those spaces would be like. But can you scroll a couple more to the unit? Yeah, so your terraces don't show up at all in the unit plans, and neither do the windows. So I mean, I know that you probably know which side faces the exterior, but for someone who's not as familiar with the project, it's not clear how they relate to the exterior, and also how they benefit from those terraces. They seem like they're a really central part of your project, and so they should show up in your unit plans, and we should see how how you're benefiting from those. Those are the main points that I wanted to make, and I'll see if Ash has any comments. Oh, although can one more thing I want to ask about. Can you go back to the floor plans, Mark?
Yeah.
That one? Yeah. It seems like the elevators, well, maybe that's not that big of a deal. It seemed like the elevators were sort of pinching off the corridor in a weird way, and just from a practical standpoint, you probably want to think about giving yourself a little bit more space at the elevators, because with people, especially that top, the top floor plan, where you've got this super wide corridor. Now we're looking at level 5. You've got a super wide corridor, and then it really narrows down right at the elevators. And that's exactly the spot where you're going to want to try to create some space for people to wait for elevators and get in and out of elevators without bumping into people that are using the corridors. That's sort of a minor point. But
Yeah, they can slide easily.
yeah, that would be easy to manipulate. But I think it's really,
That's about 3 feet, and the corridor is about 6. So
okay, definitely not enough.
yeah, definitely not enough.
6 feet is fine for the corridor, but 3 feet is not enough at the elevators. But I'll put myself on mute and see if Ash has anything to add. And thanks, really nice project.
Thank you.
Carmen, I would have loved. Again, I appreciate the details that you went into about each unit, and this will give you a better understanding, better space planning, better modular formation for your structure as well. So same thing goes to you. Just please start thinking about your structural systems module, how this will affect your columns or shear walls all the way down. The elevators, I'm not. Again, don't take it as offensive. Okay, I'm not a fan of the location is still, very far from the upper northwest side. So it's I would think they are not at proximity of the extreme northwest side here. I'm not sure if that's some sort of equality here. So probably the people who will take the apartments in the northwest will file for discrimination because they walk more than 200 feet probably. So I'm not sure if this could have a better location, probably slightly to the north a little bit, with providing again the thing that Chris talked about in terms of nice lobby in front of the elevators for people to wait for the elevator and kind of maneuver anything. I doubt that this space will even allow like a bed to go out of the elevator or a stretcher to go out of the elevator just in case of emergency. So otherwise, I like your layout so much. Sorry, I didn't attend the whole thing. I had to make a very quick phone call. I'm not sure if you have thought about mechanical, electrical room, these services early on.
Yes, those are located all on the first floor.
Okay.
So trash room, generator, meter, and electrical, it's all compiled into what I call the service area, all the way to the, what would it be? Southeast?
South. Okay.
Yes, southeast corner on John R. and the access via the alley. So,
okay. Yeah. I can't see because it's the text here is very small, so I have to download the file, not just look at it from the Google Drive, and this is what I'm doing now. So I had to probably download the file and zoom in a little bit. But again, if you are looking at the south east side, it's still, you kind of concentrated your core or distribution hub at the very end, Carmen. Still, you're gonna go with a very long ducts, which again, the people who are in the northwest corner, they might not have, you might have to probably increase your system a bit to pump air all the way to your northwest corner from your southeast hub or central core for services. That's my only take on this project. Otherwise, it's very straightforward, and I would have loved again to see some elevations study like Eric and Courtney have done very, very good job just to start thinking about their elevations, solid voids, colors like Eric, nice base with a kind of reddish and kind of lighter up top floors. They both have very nice color scheme. I appreciate the last slide here, but again, it still doesn't tell me anything. You had to try all these materials, look at the openings, solid voids. So I would have expected more schematic design for your elevations, and I think that would be essential next step forward. Thank you so much.
I will definitely work on that. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Luis or Nancy?
Louis is actually next, but can I make a comment, Mark?
Yes, go ahead.
Carmen,
Hi. Joshua, I can't, for some reason, I can't hear you. Let me.
oh, I'm sorry, I muted it.
There you go. Sorry, I thought it was me.
Sorry. My fault. Your in your parking level, the dimension that says 9 feet on your parking space is running horizontally, but your parking space itself is not running horizontally. So I'm concerned that your parking space may be too small. You might want to just take a look at that and make sure that your parking spaces are the right size so that you don't wind up getting screwed later on. That's my only comment.
I'll check into that. I did see that in Nancy's document, they said that if you do a 30-degree parking, it's supposed to be 9 foot wide by 17.5 deep. Is that what you're referring to? So
yeah, but I don't think you're necessarily 9 feet wide, right? You're like 8 feet wide because it's on that angle. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I will check into that.
Yep.
Thanks.
That was it. Luis is next.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So I'm gonna start with the underground floor plan. And here, first I try to fit in as many parking spaces as I could. And I was able to fit in 41 parking spaces, each one being 9 feet by 20. And with those, I put in 41 storage lockers right in front of them. The aisles are going to be 24 feet. That is to code. And the ramp at 12% is going to be in a length of 89 feet with 12 feet transition zones at each end of them. For the underground floor, my structural plan here is to use a precast double T system with inverted beams. This will give me the opportunity to create a 48 feet base and be able to fit in more parking spaces this way. So I'm gonna locate the generator room and the electrical room and other mechanical systems underneath the ramp. And if you can now go to the next page, to the ground floor plan. Here in the ground floor plan, I have the 5,000 square feet of retail, and I located them along John R. And my main entry is going to be on Alfred Road. That's where the vestibule is and the lobby. So I located the egress stairs at each end of the building. So one is going to be on the northwest side, and the other one is going to be on the southeast. The elevators are going to be towards the middle. That's going to be more convenient for the trash rooms to also be located right next to the elevators. Here in the ground floor plan, I also have the community space along the back. That way I'm going to add a terrace, 600 square feet terrace right behind it. I also have a mail room and the lobby desk right by the lobby. and the laundry room and bike storage, also more towards the back for easy access. I also have a space for access in case of for moving in and moving out trucks right next to the elevators. I don't know if you can see that. And if you can go to the third page. Here I have the second and third floor plan, which is going to be exactly the same. And I have 17 apartments. I located the 2-bedroom apartments towards the corners. So they would have 2 faces with glass. And here I only have 2 of the 2-bedroom units. If you go down to the next page, this is going to be the 4th floor plan. Here I was able to fit 3 of the 2-bedroom units and a total of 50 apartment units between the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor plan. So I'm not doing a 5th floor plan. I think I have a lot of elevation in the 1st floor plan, so this is actually perfect. If you go to the next one, here I show you the elevations, and I have a total height of 49 feet and only 4 floors plus underground parking. And here in green, you can see the vertical circulation, so that includes the ramp and elevator and stairs. And the last slide, here I just try to illustrate the way my building starts taking form. I still don't have it completely developed, or I haven't started putting in windows or materials, but I do have an idea of what type of form it's going to take place. And here I just show the setbacks and how I'm able to project on the 2nd floor and up, so to create this type of balconies or terraces for the units. And in red, I show again the egress and the elevators. And I think that's it for, that's all I have right now.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to, well, first of all, since we're here, Mark, can you go back to the first slide with the parking? Just from sort of a practical standpoint, it looks like there are a few issues at your basement parking level, one of which is it's hard to imagine coming down that ramp and being able to make the 180-degree turn that you're describing. Yeah, even that's tricky because then you're.
Or do this.
Yeah.
Lose a couple of spaces here. So you got an interior drive.
Yeah.
And compress this to 20 feet, slide this over, free up more dimension here.
Sure. This is something you can look at with Mark, but we're talking about a couple of circulation ideas that might allow this to work a bit better in the basement parking. And then you also need to create some kind of lobby space or just space that's not parked in or being driven in around your. Every time you have a stair and an elevator, you can't walk, you can't step directly out of the elevator into a drive aisle. You've got to allow yourself some space there.
Like a porch or a stoop.
Yeah, if not a room, at least some space that no one's driving or parking on. But you know, those are really just sort of practical issues, and I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked one of your classmates, can you tell me what about this project is your main interest? Because I'm not getting a real strong sense of that, but I'm sure you have something that you're interested in. So I'm going to put myself on mute and ask you to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I wanted to have some simplicity. Maybe when you go to the first floor, I have everything you need. So maybe instead of simplicity, maybe say efficiency. So in the back, you would have easy access to everything you would really need. And then in the front, you show off your retail and more of a invitation to come in the building. Also about the underground, I agree. And I'm working on maybe elevating the ground floor, the back of the ground floor a little more. This way the ramp wouldn't go down all the way to 89 feet in length. So it will come down to the floor it will have a little more room to organize circulation better for car. But for that, I would have to play around with the elevations and where the first floor would actually start. And if it starts a little above ground level, I will have a lot more room to play around with the ramp in the underground parking.
Okay, thanks. So I guess my opinion is that if efficiency is sort of your main driving concept, which I think can work as a concept, then I want to see two things. I mean, first of all, from a typology or building organizational standpoint, I want you to prove that what you've done is the most efficient layout possible by testing it against other potential layouts and making it clear that this one is really efficient, versus like we've seen several other typologies today as far as like a courtyard configuration or terrace organization. We've seen a lot of L-shaped buildings, but we've seen some other ones too. And that's something that I would want to see tested, so that I believe that you arrived at the most efficient one. And also that I had a better sense of what your parameters were for efficiency. Does that mean structural efficiency? Does it mean, economy of materials? Does it mean
leasable to non-leasable space?
Leasable to non-leasable, shortest walking distances for residents?
That's a great question.
Just have to kind of tease that concept out a little bit more. And then whatever it is, whatever your definition of efficiency is that you're interested in, it's also something that I think is important to explore in the units. So like I can imagine you taking a really in-depth look, and certainly many architects have done this and been fascinated by this, taking a very in-depth look at what allows for efficiency of movement and motion within some of the domestic residential spaces, kitchens and bedrooms, and especially based on the resident population here, which is it's senior housing for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, 55 more.
That I think could be a really productive area for you to explore. What does efficiency mean to someone who's aging, and what's helpful for them in terms of making their unit and their building and their community livable, and what does efficiency mean from their standpoint. So those are avenues that I would explore, and those are those are some suggestions that I have, and I think could all be really productive for you. But you have to start to engage with it, you know, and I do think you have a pretty logical plan here, and a lot of these spaces make sense. But I need to get a better sense of the reasoning behind it, of why it's important, and you know, I need to have you make me believe that that it is important and that you're doing something special here, which I think you can do. But I'll put myself on mute, and Ash, if you have some comments as well, I'll turn it over to you.
Louise, I like that you thought about the structural system here. However, I don't see that you came close to the number of parking spaces that has been achieved by your colleagues here. I agree with Chris here on having like a vestibule for the elevators in the basement. You cannot do like an open an elevator to an alley of the like a passway of a car. This is very dangerous. So you might want to think about the orientation of your elevators as well to solve this problem. I do think here that these and that's for everybody. These stairs will need a refuge area on the bottom. I learned that from one of Mark's sketches on our walls at LTU. That's hand sketches. So I'm not sure how this will fit the southeast stair, although the northwest probably would work in terms of finding a refuge area because of the orientation of the stair. Again, that's a quick look. You said you put the mechanical room under the ramp here, which is, again, that's not a successful place for it, because again, it's still, you know, it's accessible, of course, to equipment, and you know, if you want to put a boiler, or that's in case you want to put your mechanical systems in the basement, which is completely acceptable. But you will run into some still longer ducts to come to this nice shaft that you have behind this small elevator or whatever, this elevator area. Your vertical shaft for electrical systems needs to be sort of substantially, not very big. I would say half of Eric's space, if you had looked at his. So you don't have to make it very large or very small, that as you did here. And I'm not sure if this probably if you decided to put the mechanical room in the back of the elevators, this might free some spots here under the ramp. I'm pretty sure that will fit 3 cars, if I'm not mistaken here, in this space, the mechanical space under the ramp. So this is probably something to think about. I would have desired some. I like the floor plan, the first floor plan, very much. Very straightforward. One thing is lacking, though. You have to open a escape door to the right of way. Okay, you cannot. I don't see any people who are coming from the stairs. I think you have to make an exit door on this. You know, I don't know. Probably cut some of these, one of these bike storages, and probably open it to the entrance of the parking here. You need a door somewhere here near the 2 stairs for people to escape just in case of fire. So this is a code issue here. The rest of the floor plans are typical. I hope you have something in mind on how, like Carmen, on how you would solve these units. I hope it doesn't, give you a hard time. I would have loved also to have some, again, a schematic study for the elevations, beyond this 3D that you have provided. It's a tough system, though, to make a sexy building out of precast, but I can share with you some of the resources on precast if you decided to go this route here. I'm not sure why you have added a line of columns here on your first floor that are not in your basement. I'm not sure, probably I'm reading this wrong, and unless you did a Verandil or something to switch. I can see here this right, the mid line, column line repeated here between the basement and the first floor, but I don't know what did you do with the column lines that's right of it and left of it, like these two lines here. I don't know where these columns go. They don't show in the basement. These probably will clog your passway for the cars here in the two main pathways in the basement.
Yeah, so for the basement, I'm using a different system than what I'm using for the first floor up.
What kind of system? Because you said you're going to use precast, and it's very hard, Louise, to switch a column line like you did here with a precast. With a side cast probably, but still, I don't agree with this with this grid switching from the typical floor all the way to the ground. Fine, but if you go with these columns in the basement, this will, create a total mess here. So you do have a problem here. You cannot
go vertical all the way down.
Yeah, you can. With precast, no way, dear. You can.
Okay.
Simply, I'll tell you why. Simply because the precast systems works with gravity. It rely on gravity. Huge columns, huge beams, hunches. So it's a sort of a bearing connections. Bearing means it relies on gravity to transfer the load. Yeah, there is moment, there is everything, but the only way to switch a column line load is to use a Verandil truss, which you don't have the leverage or the luxury to do this here. I appreciate that you thought about your structure. That's greatly appreciated. Two things: you didn't achieve as many in terms of parking spots as the others, so absolutely did not serve you well here. And this transfer of load from the column line into, this cannot work in a precast. It could work with a side cast, but you need a leverage. You need, I would say, 4 feet at least to transfer this load on a Verandil, and that's not economical or efficient as you claim your building is. Your main idea or main essence of your building is efficiency. That's not efficiency here, Louise. Again, I appreciate it's very straightforward. The typical floors, first floor is great, but you have a problem here with the basement transferring the load down.
Okay. Thank you.
Who's next?
Nancy is next.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. If we start with the first slide, I have here the site plan. Well, it's like a proposal because I have a green area on the top north, but I haven't really thought about it. How am I gonna solve that? But it's basically going to be an L shape that is going to be facing Alfred Street and John R. If we go next to the next slide, we have the basement plan. In here, I actually got 48 parking spaces, including 2 ADA, and moved the bicycle storage that I had here on the next to the stairs. I moved it to the ground floor, and I was able to fit the 50 locker spaces on both sides, one underneath the ramp and the other one next to the stairs. I also had the elevators next to the stairs, and I put both elevators together, and the stairs, like I believe it was Rasha that commented about having an access in each side since it's an L shape. That's why I left my both stairs in each end of the building. And here in the basement, I managed to place the generator room. Okay, if we go to the next slide, we have the ground floor. Here, I actually have 2 access. One access from Alfred Street. It's like a more public access since we have here the bike storage. People can like have their storage there. People can go either to Alfred Street, can go out to Alfred Street, or they can go down through the parking lot. I have here a parking lot that it could be for either the management of the building or the retail, since I have access from the parking lot to the retail area. And actually here it doesn't show, but those little are benches here and trees are like a common area, green area, where the people living here, they can come down and sit here and relax in or if they have I don't know, dogs or something, they can walk them here. I haven't really solved the entrance of the ramp. In doing my sections, I think I'm gonna have a little trouble there in the access, but I do want to keep the green area for the tenants. So maybe I'm gonna have to rearrange a little bit of that area. But since I have 48 parking lots downstairs, and I have 9 parkings here, and I also have a little space on Alfred Street, I have 5 parking spaces that I could use if I have to rearrange this parking lot. And I also have the service area where I keep the mirror room, the electric room, the riser room, the garbage room, electric, the management office. I even included like a security control room and the janitor closet. All of that, it's like together in this area, green area, that it's right on the main lobby, since it's like easier for management, I believe. I also have the mail room right next to the elevator, since I believe it's like the main entrance. It has control access since the reception is there. It has a connection between John R to the parking lot, and also on the alley, I have load and unload for the garbage truck. So he doesn't have to come into the parking area that we have here and block some space. So I managed to make a space especially for the garbage truck. Here and on the corner of John R and Alfred Street, I'm keeping the retail. the retail. I have two retail spaces that are going to be there. Okay, if we go to the next slide, we have the second floor. The second floor here, I have the both stairs. They're going to be like my core elements, connected by the corridor. That's going to be the purple element. And I actually managed to divide my units in three. The affordable units, I'm calling them A2, and the one-bedroom units, I'm calling them A1, and the two-bedroom units, I'm calling it B1. In the second floor, I'm putting the dog washroom and the laundry room, because I believe that these kind of activities are more like private, and I wanted to keep them from the second floor up, just like the exercise room that I sent it all the way to the top, since I think that those kind of spaces are only for the people living in the building. So I didn't want to keep them in the ground floor, to give them a little bit more privacy. This is the third floor, that it's almost the same. We have the units going in an L shape. The fourth, the next slide is the fourth floor, that it's the same as the third floor. And on the top floor, the fifth floor, I have 5 units, 5 A1 units, and I have the exercise room that I consider it's a private space, and a common area for, I don't know, gatherings, parties, and an open terrace that is looking down to John R. Street. In the next slide, I have the layout for my 3 type of rooms. They're not definite. I'm still making changes to them, but I just wanted to keep like a square feet count. For the type A1, that's going to be the affordable units. I am putting myself a limit on square footage that I want to keep on. And for the type A1 and B1, that are the 1 and 2 bedrooms, I want to be a little bit more, I want to give them a little bit more of square footage, making them bigger and more comfy. And next, I have a few sections. These sections are actually just showing the levels and the distribution of areas, like the common areas, the share areas, the residential units, and the public spaces. I have the next slide is another 2 sections. Here it shows the ramp that I'm going to be working on for the access, since it's a little bit odd. And I have my elevations that I don't know why they're purple, but these are just examples I've been working on. They're not exactly like I want them. I'm still working on them. I just wanted to see how they look with the combination of windows, because I'm considering doing open concept. I want a lot of sunlight to come into the room, so I do want to keep really tall windows. I really want to make the view to the streets. So I am looking into options of how can I design the windows, since I've been looking into solar panels that are translucent, so they can be windows, so they don't block the view. They're transparent, so they look like a window, but they also absorb solar energy. So maybe I'll be considering something like that for my windows. And here I have the next slide. I have a few more elevations, just working on the windows, see how I'm going to be considering, since I do have to put the balconies. Maybe they're not going to be to the exterior. Maybe I have to work something to make them come into the building. But I'm still working on those. That's it. I'm done.
Maybe nip this one right now.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple of things that Mark and I have been looking at going through your floor plans. If you take a look at your 5th floor plan, the top floor, you need 2 means of egress, and you've only got 1 stair here, 2 means of emergency egress. So the elevator doesn't count as emergency egress. So on your 5th floor, somehow you need to get 1 more stair up here if you're going to use this floor. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three stairs is something that you could do, right, Nancy, where the 3rd stair is right in the knuckle of the L and runs all the way up vertically, where you have a luxury of space, for example, on level 3, 4, and certainly 5 with a little reworking. But you've got the dog wash and laundry room on level 2, which programmatically causes a problem. And then the west and northmost stair could actually not go to the roof. That's one option. The other option is to do a hallway on the roof that connects to the westmost stair and allow that stair to pop up past the roof plane. We'll talk a little bit more about those options next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's something in there that could work. Can we go all the way back to the beginning, to the very first slide? And you said this was a concept you were working with, and there's a big open green space on the corner, and so I was really curious what that was going to turn into. Like, it was going to be sort of an inverse of all the other schemes that we've seen that are basically L-shaped buildings with a lot of building mass on the corner. And I was kind of intrigued by this idea that you were carving out the corner as a negative space instead. But in your building plans, that's not actually what you're doing. So can you explain, like, is that something that you're interested in? And if it does, what does that mean to you? Is that space on the ground level, or is that space up through the building, or is it something that you were thinking about that you changed your mind about, or what? I'll put myself on mute so you can talk here.
Yeah, actually, that space, the green space, it's I was thinking on including it on the 5th floor. Since we have like a community area, a meeting area that could be open to that green garden on the rooftop. It could be used along with the terrace. It could be connected, those 3 areas.
Site idea grant?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Sure, because those are the 2 main the two primary open spaces, one of which is on the roof and one of which is.
Yeah, because like these are stairways and these are parking spaces, so it's kind of compressing everything together. This is an interesting.
Okay, yeah, we're just trying to make sense of your site plan here. I guess it's a site plan. It's a roof plan where we're seeing the. And what are the two brown? Can you scroll back through the plans? What are the two brown spaces? Those are units.
The brown spaces on the top, are the terraces on the 5th floor. There are around, well, next to the elevator. I actually want to have the elevator like glass enclosed and have those like views from the from the building to John R. Street.
So those spaces on the 5th floor, the spaces that are like a darker shade of purple, those are outdoor spaces?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're suggesting that you would have another purple space to the north of what you've got drawn here, and that would be another outdoor amenity space.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So, well, and another thing we were saying is that might get you closer to the stair if you're trying to get on the 5th floor, if you're trying to get a corridor or something to run over to the other stair as your second means of egress.
Yeah, this is partitioned off.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to go from here to there pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this: what is the advantage of? Then you would have basically 3 exterior spaces on the 5th floor, tiny, medium, and large spaces. What's the advantage in your mind of doing that versus, say, blocking off one big space as a big rooftop terrace?
Well, I was thinking in having maybe I can eliminate the one down the elevator, but I wanted to keep the terrace and the green area on top of the community area, because I wanted to have the 2 type of areas to create view. One of them to be a green area, and the other one it could be it doesn't have to be green area. It can be like where you can have chairs and tables and have I don't know. I mean, I want to keep another kind of space on the top and be connected by the community area, because I would like to, I would consider it would be a good idea for that community area to have access to both.
Okay. Mark, can you scroll down to the elevations? We're just looking at the elevations right now. I'm wondering about how those shared open spaces on the 5th floor start to impact the sort of the formal character of your building. Which I'm not sure about. Yeah.
You see this stuff?
Sure. Mark's just pointing out that on your Alfred Street elevation, you would be seeing in the distance the outline of your fifth floor John R. So you might have that drawn in like a lighter shade or an outline or something so that you're aware of that. Do you know what I mean on that Alfred Street elevation?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually flipped. It looks like this is supposed to be a little.
Maybe that's it.
I'll talk to her about that.
Okay. It's a minor issue, just sort of a legibility. Those long horizontal windows are really interesting. Mark, can you go to a unit plan? And Nancy, can you tell me where in the unit I would find those long horizontal strip windows and what you were thinking about in terms of the bedrooms, the character of the interior space there?
No, they're not the bedrooms. They're actually the living room. Since I want the bedroom to have the access to the balcony, but I also want to have like an open concept. I want the light to come in, so I really want big windows, but I want to have that access. So I was keeping the long, elongated windows on the living area, not in the bedroom.
Okay, interesting, thanks. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen windows quite like that. It's interesting.
You should ask Ashley as well.
What's that? I think we're running short on time here. Ash, do you have any comments that you want to add here? I'll put myself on mute.
Yeah, very quick. I like your elevations so much, Nancy. I don't know why they came purplish, but we call these French windows, which goes from the floor all the way till like 7 feet high, which will allow, of course, daylighting to come in. But you have to. There is some code restrictions regarding the handrail if you wanna go this route here. I think it should be like 3-4 or something like that, or 3-6. But I like them so much. It reminds me with with some of the downtown Birmingham multi-use new buildings. Just very just a second here. Just very quick comment. I like also the roof floor or the fifth floor. Very nice. I like to have like a nice common space for the people to enjoy. Just make sure that you have this corridor to the stair. Bring the stair up. This will save you the hassle. Have a corridor, and that's done. My excuse me, just a sec here. Go to the first floor here. Had some not some weird things, but I had to. You're the first one to download the file for you because it was very small and I had to magnify it. So you have here kind of two receptions. Well, this is very hard to monitor. Your entrance on John R. I would love to have vestibule, especially in winter. for Michigan, but that's not a big problem. My problem here is if you really want a clean lobby, these are very details, very minute details, but it just came. So I would suggest that you switch these two bathrooms, small bathrooms, to open to the elevator lobby. That's not a good thing. So I would switch the doors to the other side and keep probably this door that leads to the corridor open for people to use these as public restroom. You can join also this WC in the security control area with the janitor closet and get rid of the third door to your elevator lobby. Make it very clean. The mail room, I'm not sure if this will satisfy the requirements here. Very tiny, very small. I love the management office, security control room, very nice. File storage. Electrical and mechanical room. Well, very hard to have the mechanical room in this area with this very small door if you need to get a boiler in. So you have to have a double door. You have to have, I'm not sure if that's a successful location for it. One more thing is that we highly prefer that mechanical room is connected or very close to the vertical shaft that would feed your floors, so you don't have any of the shafts here. So think about it next time. This is just still the conceptual design. So think about the vertical shaft that will bring the air connected to the VAV units and distribute your air to the different units here. So this is big equipment that goes through the door of this room. So it cannot be the same width of even I see here the bathrooms have bigger doors or wider doors than your mechanical room here. Just think about it, give it another shot one more time. If you might want to move it somewhere else where you will have this vertical ducts coming up. And same thing for you, Nancy. I like the two entrances here from the back and the front for the retail. Very nice, very nicely thought of. Just think as the others about starting putting the module. Yeah, oh, one more thing. We tend not to put the bubbles here, which is the axes on a kind of a schematic or a design drawings. You can have the axes that determines probably your structure module, architecture module, but you still can have, of course, the dimensions like what you did with your units. But we kind of refrain from having the bubbles in this stage. So we start looking at them in the design development. And again, the title block here, you need to find, like, again, these are minor things. It doesn't take the merit or the credit, very good and thought of project. I like it. Why? Because you tackled everything. You give us details for the units. You give us kind of not very detailed sections, but at least with the color code, we can easy follow up with you. You give us very nice purplish elevations with these French windows, these kind of horizontal windows as well. I'm very eager to see how it will come up to the end. You have a nice sort of a glass wall here in your alley elevation, but just try to, have a nicer title block. This is more of a kind of a construction drawings kind of thing. So have a softer look title block, probably orient it on the other way, landscape, put the text on the other way, vertically, and make it looks nice. It's still, we're not yet in the phase of design development or construction drawings to have the bubbles, and so I would love the color codes are enough. And again, same thing for the others. Start please thinking about your modules. What's your construction method? Steel, concrete, what's your module, how you're going to distribute this, how you're going to take your columns all the way down to the basement, which will greatly affect your circulation. You'll have another night or so just working on your basement after you have your construction or structure module. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. Okay, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Christoph. That was fun. I love that you were able to be here tonight and build on, again, the conversations you've been having with Ash and Professor Farrow as well for the other comp design studios. Do you have any maybe pithy words of encouragement as a final sort of closing remark before you find out that you're going to be invited back for the next benchmark review and maybe the ones after that?
No, nothing too clever, but I think everybody has a really strong start to the project.
Good.
Some good ideas to develop, and also quite a bit of work to do.
I got that sense
those
too.
ideas. It'll be a busy semester,
right,
for just about everybody. But it's like I said, interesting projects, and I'm curious to see where they go.
And are you again, to put you on the spot? Given your really unique experiences with this particular site and with what we've done, are you pleased or surprised or concerned about any of the general directions that any of the students have taken?
No, I wouldn't say concerned.
Good.
There's a lot of L-shaped buildings, which with some minor variations are pretty similar to the organizational, the overarching organizational layout that we have on our Hamilton Anderson building A3, which makes sense. I think it's a pretty logical layout for a building of this size. But I'm also interested in some of the projects that are headed in other directions, as far as different typological options. I'm really curious to see how those play out.
And I've noticed a real commitment to understanding things like daylighting and outdoor terraces and circulation. That seems to be a really important concern for everyone. Okay, good. Well, I'll talk to you later about the next date, and all we have to do is look ahead for that. We won't have Christoph for Thursday night, so good for you if you had an opportunity to be in the review with Christoph tonight. And I'm still working on another prospect for Thursday night, but it may just be yours truly with Ash chiming in. I think we kept a good pace tonight, aside from a couple of technical snafus. I think one of them was maybe my fault because I forgot to plug the computer in, and so it ran off of the batteries, which I think discharged the session before I was able to sort of figure out what part goes into what part to plug it in. Then the second thing was finding the right room for Carmen to run her critique from. And in Christoph's remark, Carmen, just so you know, was sort of like watching the Blair Witch Project for a moment, because you were outside with just the light of the computer screen sort of shining on your face. So that was eerie and charming at the same time. But I think that's really the fun thing about, and sometimes the maddening thing about these online conversations, and certainly these online reviews. You have to learn to make do with what you can. We will have conversations on Thursday night. We'll start again at 5:30 as a soft start. I will fire up the class at 5:15. I may decide to run the class at Lawrence Tech if I can get there in time. And if I do that, I will alert you as soon as I can in the case that you want to be at Lawrence Tech to participate or to be together at that time. That's one thing. The second thing is I'm actually.
Mark.
Yes, go ahead, Ash.
Please let me know if you're gonna run it Thursday, because I was gonna make the trip to your office on Thursday, because I'm very eager to see your office. But you will save me a trip, okay?
Okay.
Seriously, we have. I have the module 2 review on Thursday. So we are going from 1 to 5:30. So please let me know. So
okay.
If you decide to leave your office, I have to leave by 5. If you're gonna make it instead, I'm just gonna stay.
Yeah. So
and join you.
So I'll let you know. I'll let you know that day. Okay. And I'll let you all know at the same time. I'm actually kind of trying to hold myself back tonight, because I have so many, like if we had tomorrow, if we had like 8 hours tomorrow, I would spend like an hour with each of you tonight that presented tonight, and I draw red marks on your plans, which is the way I like to operate in the office. But we don't have that time, and it may be some time before you get my feedback. So what I'd like you to do is listen carefully to the talk that happened tonight, in terms of watching it on YouTube, which you can, I don't have to send you the link. You can just go to YouTube, sign in, look for Mark Farlow, and you'll see all of my classes. And so, because these are public sessions right now, you're able to get into them. I do think that we had a really, so I have to resist doing that, and I'm gonna try to be therefore extremely clear in my written comments to you over the weekend when I produce the grade sheets for you. The next thing is, there was a lot that you did today. I really appreciated the jump between last session on Tuesday and last Thursday and tonight. I think it was notable, and I think it was welcome, and it was well received by me. Yet I think in just having the conversations, you realized that there were some missteps and some misunderstandings, maybe on both parts, my part and your part, in terms of what you were doing. And I hope tonight's conversations fleshed those ideas out, or those problems out, and you begin even tonight and in the next 24, 48 hours, begin adjusting your plans. I'm not talking about redrawing them. I'm talking about maybe printing them at a logical scale and doing overlays to show the corrections and the improvements that we actually made tonight, so that when we sit down and meet next Tuesday night for our speed crit session, our speed conference session, you will already have made those improvements in advance of that class. So we will have more reviews on Thursday night. I will process the grades over the weekend, and we will have a group conversation on Tuesday night next week with individual commentary from me to each of you privately, and then we're sort of flat out, as we say in the drag world, drag racing world. We'll be flat out for the next module, which is module number 3. But you know, we've been in school for over 5 weeks now. You've produced a body of research that was really thoughtful, and you've produced, I think, a pretty good, somewhat tentative, but a pretty good approach to your projects in quite honestly a very short time period.
They are ahead, Mark.
Yeah, yeah, we are.
The other class, you won't see this level of details till 2-3 weeks from now, which is, to me, is too late. So I can start
I agree with that.
This coming Tuesday, I'll start my module 2 in the lab, which is the structure. Okay, so simply please think about what I have said today, and for the people who are coming on Thursday as well. It's a very simple thing. You put some structure. the full structure plan, but I'm planning to run it slightly soft on you guys in this online version. So I'll have sort of an initial submission and a final submission for the upcoming modules. We have structures, we have HVAC, we have enclosure.
Yeah.
And in addition to the sustainable features that you did in the research, that you're going to show what you've done in terms of sustainability on your final board. But for the modules, just lay out some of our structural module for everybody. Take another look at your structure stuff, okay, and submit to me. Let's say a grid and count on your floor plan, or the first couple floor plans, or one typical floor plan. You have to do all of them, and probably a outline of what do you think the beams will run. I'm not gonna go. I'll give you some thought on Tuesday after Mark finishes his session.
Good.
So it's great. But I'm really impressed, Mark, that they came to this stage this early. This will help a lot, and you will come up with a gorgeous projects at the end that are very well studied. You fix all the quirks, and the lab portion as well will be polished several times by the end of the semester.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to be able to do that even after 3 weeks from now, which will delay my assignment for way back.
I see.
I think then added another module. I don't know about those.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we can talk about that, but I'm comforted to hear this, and I'm
very happy, very impressed.
Yeah, I'm excited for all of you to hear that there's a sense that you guys are ahead of the game a little bit, and so I don't mind the remark or the feedback that there's a somewhat tentative approach by you at this point, because I do want to take stock of the fact that you did this in 2 weeks, and I think that's an impressive and an important remark, because I think what you need to take away from that is that when you're pressed to juggle a lot of things in a short amount of time, you begin to think about the most important things and address them, and I think that's something that is a useful tool as a designer. So that's something I want you to take away from this experience. The second thing I think you need to all do is to make sure that your audiences know what you did in the research phase, and make sure that that's part of your narrative, that you studied millennials or you studied history or you studied structure, and make sure that there's at least a statement that, this is what you took from that. And speaking of your statements, I feel like you're still going unscripted here. So I think that part of the preparation on your part is to make sure that you're saying the things that need to be said that maybe aren't clear in the drawings. Don't necessarily read drawings, because we're able to do that. I think Luis and Courtney had some excellent graphics that made reading the drawings not so painful for Ash and me in terms of small font and small type. So there's something to be said for that graphic legibility factor in their presentations. So there's I want you to look at the other presentations for ways to improve your own presentations. And then finally, I think all of you, for the most part, hit the time mark pretty well. Actually, I was impressed that so many of you hit it right on the nut, and in some cases, it ended. You ended before the time mark. So I'll go over that with you as well on Tuesday. But I want to close now with some thanks to you guys for going first. The benefit of going first was that you got certainly Christoph to participate in our reviews, and if I play my cards right, I'll be at Lawrence Tech on Thursday night at 5 o'clock, and I'll join whoever is on campus at that time. Okay, so I'll close the session now and say good night and thank you. And unless there's any other comments, I'll close now.
Thank you, everybody, and I'm very impressed. Good work.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark. Really fast.
Bye-bye.
I had a quick comment. I apologize.
Yes, ma'am.